Hi everybody and welcome to the last Tech Wednesday of 2018. Oh, but that does mean it's nearly Christmas, yay! For those of you who don't know me, my name's Naomi and I run the startup incubator here called E4F, and tonight's Tech Wednesday is all about E4F. Sorry, E4F stands for Entrepreneurs for the Future. So it's an early stage startup incubator, and the people exhibiting and speaking this evening are all part of that program and have been working really hard over the last few months to get their business off the ground. So please be nice to them. Some of them it's probably their first time speaking, so that's great. And then after they've spoken, we've just got a bit of a panel to kind of talk about the kind of the tech and the entrepreneur scene that's happening in Birmingham at the moment and things you need to know. So have a think about what some of the questions you might want to ask them. So you've all got your little name tags. We find that the stickers really work for networking afterwards, so you can kind of spot if you're a developer or if you're hiring or whatever, you can kind of find those people a bit quicker. And then this month, we normally have stars for people who are first timers, but because it's an E4F special, anybody who's got a gold star, they have been on or are currently on the E4F program. So if you want to root them out and ask them how things are going and find out a bit more about their startups, that would be great to do that. Oh, should have said there's no fire drill or fire planned for this evening. So if the fire alarm goes off, make your way to the nearest exit. Toilets are the other side of this big blue column thing there. So I think that's all I need to say about that. We've got a Twitter fall here, hashtag TechWeds, and you can give yourself a shout out, or you can see who is speaking. We'll update that so you can follow the people who are speaking. And thank you for being part of this tech community. So, seeing as it's an Tech Wednesday kind of roundup, Tech Wednesday was founded in May 2010. So it's been going for 9.5 years. And it started off in a little cafe just over the road for the entrepreneurs who wanted to set some time together to talk about what they were doing. Your busy lives when you're a startup. It's just good to kind of set that time and say, what are you doing? What are you doing? How can we help? How can we help? And now it's grown to 2,320 members, which is awesome. In the last year, on average, we've had 113 people sign up every month. Tonight we had 145. I think some people have got stuck in traffic or something, because there's not 145 people in the There's been 862 visits to Tech Wednesday over the year, and 240 of those people were new when they came. So we've welcomed 240 new people to this campus over the last year, which is great. And the furthest person to travel to Tech Wednesday came 142 miles. So when we ask you all those annoying questions at the start of your postcode and this is your first time, it's so that we can give you fun facts like this. Interesting, I decided to do a little bit of a female to male ratio. It's quite a hot topic at the moment, women in tech. And as you can see, these are attendees of Tech Wednesday over the last 3 years. And as you can see, 2016 was probably the highest ratio, really dropped in 2017, but it's nice to see it's crawling back up this year, and hopefully let's get more and more going forward. It's something I'm going to talk to the panel about later as well, so we can have a chat about that. Just thought it was a nice little statistic. And then E4F this year. So this year on the program's again been running since 2009, but this year we've had 51 entrepreneurs join the program. They, between them, have had 861 hours of assistance through mentoring, experts, advice, events like this, all that kind of stuff. 58 events we've hosted just from E4F program alone. There are many other events that happen on campus through different programs, and hundreds of connections, and that's kind of what it's about. That's why we're here tonight, and that's what most people find is the biggest benefit of being in the tech community. So, that's enough from me. We've got 4 great speakers. All our speakers, like I said, are on the E4F program currently, so please be kind to them. So I'm going to introduce Bally as our first speaker. So give it up for Bally. Thank you.
Shall I just do this from here? Hi everyone, hopefully you can hear me. Good evening and thank you for having me here today. So I am one of those females, obviously, in that chart. Thank you for pointing that out. And sometimes, you know, as a female on these programs, you can feel a little bit like, oh, I feel a little bit sort of, out here on my own and stuff. But, I thought I'd put my official E4F picture up on there and confirm that is me, and I am a CEO of ITSS, short for Independent Training and Skills Services. So delighted to be here. Ooh, don't know what happened there. Let's go back. Right. So delighted to be here. So just a bit of an idea about what we do. We help employers to set up their own internal apprenticeship programs, and also private training providers. And if any colleges want some help, then we could help them too. Really what that looks like is a load of government guidance. Some of you may be familiar with this. I'm getting a few smiles. So a hell of a lot of government guidance, which we then distill and translate into practical activities to help you set up as providers for apprenticeship. There's a lot of legislation in this, and it's the sector that we've worked in. I myself have worked in for knocking on probably about 15 or 18 years now. The big thing being that, these guidances that come out by the government, they're like sort of 70, 80 pages long if you want to set up these apprenticeship programs. And then you look at it, it doesn't come with a manual. So then you think, okay, well, how do I decipher this and how do I go about it? So we had unlocked this problem last year. And a number of individuals came to us, companies came to us saying, we want to set up our own apprenticeship training. Can you help us? You've worked in this industry. So we set about solving that problem. And actually, when we started to look wide in that, there were more companies trying to decipher the same. So we thought there's an opportunity here. How might we do this? We came into it. This is a very simplified version, if you like, of our model that we've already created. So when I came here to do a presentation, this is simple. This is just a normal world. We haven't even gone into the detail of this yet. And I was kind of wondering, how do I put this across to you without it looking too busy? So when you look at the detail that we have to go to set up an employer as an apprenticeship training provider so they can train their own apprentices internally, there's a number of things. We created a whole model for it. We call it our Spectrum 39 model. So we came into this, I came and did the presentation here, and I just said to the guys on the panel, I met Naomi for the first time, and I said, look, I'm no techie, but I know this stuff. And I said, what we're having a problem with is we've unlocked this gap in the marketplace. We know that there's more employers out there, more outfits out there that want this help, but we can only be in one place at one time as management consultants. We can't be, we can't serve, multiple clients at the same time. So therefore, we're faced with either we make this service portable, make it digital, or we're just going to be stuck with being, management consultants as we are. So that was our problem really that we came to E4F with. And luckily they took us on board, thank you for that, and we've not looked back. So what have we done and what have we needed? At the time we came in, and the biggest thing was protecting our IP. So the model we've created, all the various, the details it goes into, we needed to create that. And I was no expert on IP at the time when I came in. And also the big one, digitalizing our service. So we were doing everything manually, things were going really well, great feedback from clients, but no experience, shape nor form of how do you do this stuff, how could we do this digitally. So rolling on in the first area, the IP, we were extremely lucky with our mentor, John Cook. He helped us to get a grant through the Greater Birmingham and Solihull LEP IP grant via them. And with that, we were able to have an IP audit done, a full audit of our business, and that generated an IP report. Part of the recommendations from that were that, look, you've got a report, but what we'd also recommend is that you have some contracts done. Contracts and agreements, anybody you work with, clients and associates or subcontractors, that it protects everything you create is your own IP. So we went about that, and that work is well underway, nearly finished, and this is something that is really important to us as management consultants, if you like, just to protect everything that we we create. And then the second one was obviously this digital stuff, right? The stuff that I'm not really particularly good at. But, you know, do we build a platform from absolute scratch? We're working with employers, so we could get that live feedback to create a platform to make it efficient. But actually, are we probably too early stages yet? We did some research around that, and we spoke to a few providers, but yeah, I think the early indications were suggesting to us not to go down a full build model and maybe use something that's readily available already out there. So then we went down that avenue. We looked at other platforms that are already available, various e-learning ones, ones that have been created for the public sector to manage subcontractors and procurement and all this kind of good stuff. Even Trello, we looked at Trello boards and might we use that as a method of project managing everything we do with our clients and opening it up to them. And actually, in the end, when John and I sat down, my mentor, we actually looked at everything we had, everything we've done with clients. A lot of it is in Excel already. We do cash flow illustrations, analyses. We do gap analyses. We produce gap reports. We do flash reports. And actually, he said, well, why don't we do this? Why don't you create something simple in Excel first, and then we'll take it to a developer and we'll ask them to create you a bespoke platform, but sort out the algorithms of what you want to happen first. So actually, it was a lot simpler than perhaps in my head I'd realised. So we're actually going down option 3. So all of our diagnostic processes, our proposal development processes, we're doing via Excel first, working out all those algorithms. I'm getting some nods from some of you techies, so I'm just hoping that's the right thing to do. I have no idea what I'm talking about. I'm being completely open and honest. So hopefully it's the right thing to do. And we learn from it. I learn from it especially. The one thing I really wanted to highlight is that there's certain areas of running a business that I just absolutely hate. And I just think, oh, it just kills me. You know, it's like, you feel like Superwoman, Superman 1 minute, and then all of a sudden you have to deal with contracts, legals, IT, accounts, and I just want to just slip my wrists. But the truth is that actually when you sort this stuff out, that very, you know, the kryptonite, if you like, that they put around your neck, some of these areas, and you feel like as if you've just been bound to something, all of a sudden it gives you a power that you think, you know what, yeah, we've sorted this, we've stitched this up now, we are watertight. And for me, I think that's been one of the biggest learning curves, that coming on E4F, we came on in May, so we're new to this. And I'll be honest, I wasn't entirely certain, should I do this? But I've had to force myself to kind of deal with legal stuff and deal with IT stuff, and the stuff that I was quite happy to just contract out and not have to worry about it. But actually, it's really important as entrepreneurs to know about this stuff in your business, to stitch it up properly. And with the help of E4F, I think I've been able to face fears, deal with them, and probably not overthink it in my head. That's just reminded me of a video that my husband showed me. He goes, you are so overthinking things, but that for another day. But there's also accounts, but we managed to sort that out. So we had software we put in place, which is actually really easy to use and made our lives really easy. So that's really us. I don't know if there's even much in there. I know that E4F's really helped us out. And I'm extremely pleased with the journey that we've made and the, if you like, the learning that I personally have got from this, and it's well worth doing. So if you haven't already, and if it ever happens again or what have you, I don't know what's looming on the horizon, then do take the support you can get from the various programs around the city. There's some excellent programs, and you guys have been brilliant, you know, just dealing with you, and it's just been fine to say that I don't understand the techie stuff, and you're such an accomplished crowd, but I feel comfortable enough now to be able to say that and not get a nod look back. So that's me. So hopefully that's given you a bit of insight. Thank you for your time.
Brilliant, thank you.
Okay, any questions to start with? Stunned you all in silence. It's just going to go downhill from now.
It's good. I always think, oh, it's not a bad thing if there's no questions, because it means you've answered everything, but Oliver's going to just, you know.
So yeah, Bally, I'm interested about how you're using the Excel spreadsheets. Can you just take us through exactly how you're doing it on Excel?
Diagnosing clients and doing a gap analysis for our clients is really difficult. We go on site, and what we've done is we've created in Excel a really sort of, there's about 64 different points, maybe about 70, in relation to the rules, the government rules, everything that they need to have in place. So these are on-site audits that we do. We have a gap analysis report we use from there. We've created algorithms in the back, so we've created weightings. So actually, what is a big risk? So I've actually formulated them in my head, and I thought, right, actually, if in this area they score 4 out of 10, for argument's sake, that is a massive risk that needs to turn red. So it's a very simplistic way of doing it now, but we're hoping that those weightings and those algorithms in there, what they do is not only do they help to sort of identify those risk areas and actually what you're doing well, what we can use already and what you're missing completely, it churns it out into a report. So it also gives a report. We're also using Excel, another tab on that if you like, to do cash flow illustrations to help the organization that we're dealing with the client to make a go or no-go decision. So we'll do the gap analysis and we'll give them their cash flows and we'll say, you decide, do you want to go down this route? Do you want to set up all of that thing, that web thing I was showing you earlier, or don't you? But in our opinion, we feel that it's better for a client to say, actually, it looks pretty scary to us, and on the basis of the cash, it's not, you know what, it's not worth us going ahead. And that's the right decision for them to make. So we've done all that diagnostic process in Excel, hoping that one day it can be and I'm assured by somebody I was speaking to earlier that that can be converted to online. So it's thinking it through simplistically and that kind of diagnostic process. What we're also hoping to do from that is to churn out the proposal straight away. That actually, if you've done the gap, you've done the cash flow, if they want to go ahead, it all of a sudden creates a proposal, and we can already pre-populate it with, if certain things are showing a gap, we know how long it would take. Put in the day rate, off you go, any other additional costs, and it churns out a proposal as well. I hate doing proposals, I'll be honest. It's just so time consuming, but that's also going to help us. So actually for us, for me, it creates another solution for now. Because if anybody's done quotes, estimates, and we all do, it's just such a ball ache sometimes, as we all know, yeah. So I don't know if that answers your question. Thank you. Anything else? Yes.
Sounds really interesting. In this field, surely, I don't know this field particularly, but you've got a really moving target here, haven't you, in terms of rules and regulations?
Oh, yes.
So you must have spent a lot of time trying to design processes which are going to be flexible, whereby, you know, if government policy or process changes tomorrow, you can do something about it. So can you just say a few words about how you dealt with that?
We were in a session this morning with our team, our top team, and we're saying, look, you know, if there's no apprenticeship policy, there's no business. It's as simple as that. If the government decide that, you know, tomorrow apprenticeships aren't flavour of the month, then we have no business. But as it stands, and if you look at the market for employers wanting to set up, I mean, there's a government register, a bit too much information, but there's a government register for apprenticeship training providers, and that's increased sort of threefold in the past couple of years. You know, so the market is expanding. Universities have come into this game for the first time in our lifetime. I never thought I'd see that happen in my life. So, you know, it is a moving feast. It's dynamic. I mean, we find it really, you can either be, you know, paralyzed by the fact that things are always moving, but actually it keeps us on our feet. And I think because of the fact that we're young, we're I say embryonic, we're 2 years in now, more than 2 years in, that actually we're agile enough as well to move, and all of our team is just up for it. It's always can do. We will always look at a client project, and we'll always start with the end in mind that actually, yeah, we're going to help you to get to a go rather than no go, but only if it's in your interest. And we're quite happy to turn clients away if we say, look, it's not in your interest. You're just better off not doing it. It just doesn't make any sense for you. But yeah, completely aware that it changes daily. Policy, government policy, completely with it. So yeah. Hi.
Hello, hi, nice to meet you. Really interesting stuff, thanks for sharing. I'm just interested specifically in the intellectual property which you've got. It's always interesting when essentially consultancies are able to get IP. So what protection do you have on what particular assets?
It's more about being aware about the IP laws. So our IP audit has covered everything from the model we've created for apprenticeships to basically we got told in no uncertain terms, if you put it out there, then everything's out there, right? It's gone. So we then struggle with how do we get across to employers or how do we get across to clients that we've got this, but we can't actually share it with you. We can't leave a copy here with you. What it's helping us to do is actually get, shows our credibility, etc., but helps us to get the client work that we get. So there's that thing. What it also does is it looks at things like your business name. Can you protect it, or is it just one of those that really you can't protect it because it's too generic? Ours is too generic in our IP report. We've been told 2 years in that really ideally we probably need to have something a little bit shorter, snappy, less generic that you can protect as well and trademark. So we can't. We have been able to trademark our model, so we can put the TM logo next to it and everything. We can even put in a visual application if we want to protect it. The only thing is, if you do that, you're putting it out there. If somebody makes a tweak, they can basically do the same. Yeah, there's name, it'll look at names, it'll look at your visuals, all the materials you contain, everything electronic that you create almost as diagnostic tools, templates, proposals, slides, all of that kind of stuff, and about protecting it, putting on copyright on everything, watermarking everything, so it's more of that stuff. We've been told in no uncertain terms, you can't protect everything. You can't. There's just no way. If anybody tells you that, then they're not telling you the truth. But there's certain steps you can take. So we've taken that IP report and we've taken certain steps now to ensure that we put our watermarks and our, logos, version controls, all this kind of good stuff on everything we do. So it's more practical, really, to be honest. I like the practical stuff, to be honest. So it suits me. Don't just tell me what I've got to do and I'll just go and do it. I'm a doer, so it's all right. Was there a question somewhere else?
I think we just, if you
Last
got any question, well, if you could just wait, we are running out of time, I'm afraid, for
Sorry.
this particular talk. If you want to speak to me, you're sticking around later.
Is that okay? I am around
to have
later.
To have a chat later. Okay, so
thank you so much.
Thanks again to Bally. I've got 2 mics now. Ooh. So James is up next. You've been around on campus for a little while now on various different programs, so it's for you. It'll be interesting to hear about the kind of stuff you're doing. So give it up for James.
Thanks, Naomi. So I'm James. I'm the founding director of Sustainable Microclimates. I completed on E4F a couple of months ago. So Sustainable Microclimates helps museums tell their stories through new and unique exhibitions, so they can share these with us, but also do so in ways that lower their costs and carbon footprints. I'd first like to introduce these men and a once state-of-the-art prosthetic leg which is now helping London's Imperial War Museum tell us about attempts to rebuild lives after the First World War. We'll get back to the exhibition of the leg shortly. So at Sustainable Microclimates, we help our museum clients cut the costs and carbon footprints of energy and time-consuming troubles triggered by their vast and leaky galleries. Now, for energy-efficient preservation of their precious collections, Sustainable Microclimates consult on local environmental control using unpowered exhibition cabinets. These are cheaper to buy and run than environmental control of whole galleries. Just to clarify, we don't make showcases, we make them work harder. Now, when London Science Museum agreed to lend its prosthetic leg to the Imperial War Museum, they required it to be kept safe from the unstable relative humidity in the War Museum's gallery. If the climate is inadequate, the Science Museum reserves the right to end its loan at any time. For the borrower, this is a significant pain point. This is because exhibit removal prevents them from telling their story But more significantly, it also jeopardizes their potential income from loans in the future, because they will always want to borrow more exhibits for future exhibitions. This common scenario is played out between museums nationally and internationally. As an independent third-party company, Sustainable Microclimates was contracted to assess the capability of a new showcase to provide the correct humidity for the leg. The showcase was found to be unfit for purpose, and directions were given on how to resolve it. Now, as a conservator or restorer of museum pieces, I'm driven by a desire to innovate and improve preservation methods. The business Sustainable Microclimates was in fact conceived when I collaborated with the UK's largest showcase manufacturer to produce their most airtight products. There's a bit of a lag on the clicker. When I collaborated with the UK's largest showcase manufacturer to produce their most airtight product. This practical research showed there was scope to help both showcase users and showcase makers. To expand Sustainable Microclimates' commercial offering and to help others improve the efficiency of showcases, we've been adapting technologies to meet the needs of the museum sector. This has resulted in the blower box. The blower box is a unique diagnostic tool which uses pressure methods to quickly measure showcase airtightness and find their leaks. The speed and sensitivity of the blower box has attracted the support of the Italian showcase maker for the Mona Lisa and the crown jewels, and also it's attracted the attention of the British Museum. The Victoria and Albert Museum and English Heritage are also interested. Sustainable Microclimates is now refining the blower box into a smaller, lighter, smarter version for release as a product. We're also designing a follow-on product and seeking a mechatronic engineer for this. In 5 years, we aim to have well and truly establish our off-the-shelf products and our UK and international customer base. Also, we'll have exclusively licensed some of our airtightness control and measurement technologies to a top-end showcase maker. If you're interested in what we do, come over for a chat and a demonstration of the blower box. Thank you for your time.
It's great, thank you, James. Fascinating, didn't even know it was a thing until I met James, but you're doing a lot of good for these exhibits and keeping things alive for future generations to see, so that's great. Is there any questions for James?
Going back to Bally's point about IP, how much IP have you managed to get past over all the hurdles and file and actually get the patent in your hand?
So in terms of IP, what I've done thus far is protect the name blower box, so as a word mark, not the logo. So that the registration came through recently. There is some more complex know-how within the blower box, which I'll investigate further in regards to patenting. But now it's a matter of just keeping it under wraps. There's some pretty simple and well-established techniques in there, and so I think these are not really patentable. I've pretty much adapted a technique which is carried out by the blower door, which you may have heard of. It's basically for testing air tightness of buildings. So there's some technology out there already. Obviously, I wouldn't be trying to patent that type of technology. Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Any IP lawyers in the room tonight? Probably. Cool, thanks, Shaggy. Any more questions? Nope. Okay, so of course the blow box is actually here this evening. What? So James will be over there demonstrating things later. Thanks again, James.
Thank you very much.
The man in red, Nick. Nick is. Oh wait, what's going on? All the slides you have. So Nick is probably has only been with us for like a month, but probably has taken up most of my time.
Actually, what is it? November, August, 3 months.
3 months. 3 months. Okay,
Yeah.
there you go. Here's your
Cool,
So give
thank
a round
you.
of applause for Nick, please.
Hello. So, yeah, my name's Nick. I am a professional generalist and founder of Zevvle, which is a new kind of mobile network. I taught myself to code about 4 years ago, and with my newfound skill and what I thought was a breathtaking idea at the time, applied to E4F, but they weren't quite as convinced. So somehow, this time around in August, they let me slip through the cracks. So here I am. Last year anyway, I was preparing the horses to go abroad, and I wanted to check if my EU roaming was turned on. But unfortunately it wasn't. Networks like to do that. So the app and their web portal weren't working, so I got in touch with them once, twice, and then, oh dear. And then this happened. It's frustrating as hell. And I'm not the only one. In fact, Tom here, he's afraid of our extinction. He, speaking of a network, says their service is like a precipice before the human race as we know it ends. And it's not just customer service. Pricing is a mess as well. We are grossly overpaying. According to Ofcom and CCS Insight, from the research and data they've collected, we wasted over £9 billion on mobile contracts last year by using less than half of our allowance on average. Cleo here calls it ridiculous and manipulative. I can relate, and I'm sure some of you can as well. Banks like Monzo and energy providers like Bulb have shown us what change can be brought to a stagnant industry, and I think it's about damn time the same thing happened in telecoms. So what does that look like? Well, to start with, it's making sense of pricing. It's making it fair and transparent for customers, where they can't overspend, paying for what you use, and none of that out-of-bundle charges or similar BS. Next, it's support. I mean, the best service is obviously the service you don't need, but shit happens. And when something goes wrong, getting help shouldn't be any harder than messaging your friends on WhatsApp. And then finally, it's about you. What do you want? What would make a great network for you? That shouldn't be a novel idea, but there's only one network, giffgaff, that truly does it. And even them, you can see they've got the corporate mothership guiding them. So, how? How on earth do you start a mobile network? Well, I was asking myself that last year, and I turned to Google, and that is literally what I typed in. Luckily, it's fairly well documented, and it's not as ridiculous as you might think. So like Virgin and Tesco and giffgaff, you lease network space from one of the big four. And there's a few things that go on inside that black box, but we can leave that for another time. So what's next? Well, starting a mobile operator is a terrible decision if you've got no money. So that's the first challenge. And next month, we're going to do an crowdfunding. and then launch as soon as possible in 2019. If that goes to plan, then we're off to the races. And in 5 years from now, I'd be lying if I didn't say it probably, looks like that. Oh dear. Probably looks like that, but with less lies and fraud. And if everything goes as I want it to, we might be like that one lucky monkey that recites Shakespeare and will still be alive. So we'll then be expanding internationally to become the first truly global mobile operator, because the world of telecoms currently operates as a bunch of siloed companies that hardly talk to each other. It's a bit of a shit show. So making that seamless, both for internet usage, data, and for communication as well. I mean, roaming and any comms abroad is just expensive and a pain. So that's that, and I will leave you with this slide from Scott Belsky in his latest book, The Messy Middle, just to remind you that any project you take, it's a mess. I joined E4F near the top of that curve, and through no fault of the program, it's gone downhill. So let's hope it's up from here. Thank you.
Thanks, Nick. I don't know how he's managed to do this, but he's even turned the clicker red. Somehow it was green. That's impressive. Thanks. Anyone got any questions for Nick?
So many questions. Great, love it. Love what you're aiming for there. I'll try and put it down to one. Like, what is the point of difference? Is it just is customer service the core here as a thing?
To start with, it's customer service and pricing, and then what you'd expect from a bank like Monzo is a super slick app where you can control your account and everything. From there, it gets really interesting when you get into the deep tech of telecoms, but as a new entrant, you can't get into that straight away.
Sure.
So.
And who's in the space? Because we've seen a lot of the bigger players launch their labs built brand essentially that are offering unlimited and really reduced pricing stuff. Where do you sit in that sort of landscape?
I mean, we're trying to position ourselves as like them, the old legacies, and then us. I mean, you've got all the big four, they've almost all got their own spin-off brand. And I don't want to demean them, but anyone can put lipstick on a pig. So we're trying to avoid that and just be there for customers. So.
Okay. I'll let someone else have a go.
Any more questions for Nick?
So Google Project Fi, you want to talk about that?
Yeah, absolutely. No, Google Project Fi is amazing. Though there's a couple of caveats. One, the price per gigabyte is quite high. And yeah, they've done well to keep that consistent in 170 countries, but one, it's only in the US, and two, you need to have one of two phones, which are both Google phones. I'm one of those sketchy iPhone users, so it's not for me. £100,000.
Any investors in the room?
Let me know.
Wait, you've committed now.
What sort of tech has gone into this, or is going into this in the future?
So about that black box, it's
just a broad outline, not into proper detail.
Sure. So of course. So it's not ridiculous. We're not connecting directly with one of the big four, as I said originally. It's going through a network enabler, so they handle all the difficult things like call and data and SMS routing. So all we do is connect to their API and then build the front end for customers. So it's very much your run-of-the-mill tech stack we'll be using.
Really? Okay, cool. Thanks, Nick. Thanks again. And finally, we've got Ian. We've been having lots of trouble. There you go. Is that right? That's you? Thanks. Let's give it up for Ian.
Okay, hi. So I'm Ian from Water and Cycle. To give you a very brief background, several months ago this started out when I saw an amazing stat that Birmingham gets 42 million visitors a year, and it has no tourism map. And so I thought, well, there's a nice little business, tourism map for Birmingham. What do tourists want? They want some nice guided walks to show them all the best bits. But as I quite like running and cycling, I thought, well, when I go to a city, I also quite like maybe to go on a 10K run. And there's absolutely no resource out there that will show you a nice 10K run or a 5K run, whatever you want, that's safe to do at night, that shows you the best bits of a city just on a run. And I also like cycling, so I just thought, well, I'll stick some cycles on there as well. And that makes a quite nice name for a business, Walk and Cycle. Yay, Walk and Cycle Birmingham. At about the same time, I was thinking, well, Walk and Cycle Birmingham, there's absolutely no reason why you can't have Walk and Cycle London or Walk and Cycle Manchester or Walk and Cycle Edinburgh. And about the same time, I was thinking that I came across the E4F programme. And that really sort of put me on the situation of thinking bigger than just a tourism map for Birmingham. When you go on holiday or on business somewhere, if you want a hotel, if you want a flight, if you want to book a taxi, there's a standard brand names that everybody knows for all of those things. But if you want to get out there and see all the main tourist sites of a city on a nice walk, or you are on a business conference and you're training for the marathon in London next year and you want to go on a 10K run, there's no real obvious brand name resource that you're supposed to, right, I'm going to go to that company, that brand, and they'll show me every guided route I need to see all the best bits of a city. So that's where Water and Cycle comes in. If you want to see the main tourist sites in a limited amount of time, just download the app and it will show you all the best bits on a self-guided walk. It'll tell you where the accessible routes are. If you want to go on a run and it's late at night, the runs, it'll tell you that they're lit up, they're safe to do at night, and you're not going any dodgy tunnels or anywhere like that. And of course, like most tourists, you want to see all the hidden gems and all the bits that only the locals really know about, so you'll be directed to all of those. And it's a free app, self-guided routes. And so yeah, so moving beyond it being a tourism map for Birmingham, the vision now really in 3 years' time is to have 100 cities live with about 100,000 downloads per city or users per city, and that gives 10 million people using the service, Water and Cycle service, every year. Okay, this is sensitive. All right, oh God. We'll get there. So Birmingham is the only one that's live at the moment. London is very nearly live. There we go. It's been live a few months, Birmingham. My target for the first 12 months is to have an annualized rate of about 50,000 people using it a year. Last month, between the web visits and app downloads, it was over 8,000, so currently running at about 100,000 a year for Birmingham, with hardly anything spent on advertising so far, which is quite nice. But then with 43 million visitors a year, you'd hope you get a fairly decent natural search result. Sorry, you're actually getting, because this was a bit last minute, you're getting the brand new media pack, so there's a bit of mention here about how it works in terms of income, but effectively the model, it's always a free to download app. Local businesses will advertise within a route, so as you're walking past Opus Restaurant in Birmingham on the city centre tour, then Opus Restaurant will pay to be placed within the route to say, well, why not pop into Opus now for their fantastic value set price lunch? So if anybody knows any restaurant owners, then put them in touch. So more about the advertising and more about the advertising, and that's effectively Water and Cycle. Like I say, Birmingham is live to download. Get out there, see your city, unless you're the person that's come 142 miles, in which case it's not your city. But yeah, and then London, like I say, will be live in a few weeks' time. That's it.
That's great. Thank you, Ian. Have we got any questions for Ian and his Walk and Cycle app? Yeah. Just go down here.
Regarding your mapping API, is it Google Maps or is it open source?
Google Maps.
Okay.
Predominantly.
So it's the Google Developer API, which costs a lot of money.
Yeah. Yeah, well, yeah. Not
Okay.
yet, but yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Just an extension to that question, I was just wondering how you identify the accessible ones, the lit ones at night, the things that may go off-piste on the Google map?
The key to this, it's all highly curated content. It's not relying on open source data or bringing in data from the top 10 sites on TripAdvisor and linking them together. Every single route gone out, checked. If there's one road there and one road there, then it'll be checked to see that's the nicest road, that's the safest road. So it's all about totally curated content. A simple selection. So there's too much open source data out there. If you go on Strava or Map My Ride and put in, I want to do a 10K run in Birmingham, you get 1 million results back, but you've got no idea what's a decent one. So this is all about a very simple selection, curated content, every route checked.
Any more? Okay, you sticking around later if anyone's got any questions? Yeah, download it. I downloaded it. I downloaded it. It was really fun. I was
5 stars, obviously.
Yeah, I was travelling to work and a little thing popped up and it told me I was near Simpson's restaurant and I was like, oh, that's fun. Came in and was like, it works. So yeah, do talk to Ian about that later if you need to. So again, thank you. Okay, thankfully we don't have to use the clicker anymore. Sorry about that, guys. Don't quite know what's happened. Our technician is, I was going to say he's no longer with us. That's not the right thing to say at all. He's gone to a better place. No, this is going horribly wrong.
He's got a week off. He's on holiday.
Right, so if I'd like to invite our expert panel members up, we do have a fourth, actually, if Yanis wouldn't mind joining us. So if we could give it up for Mike, Sallie, Cliff, and Yanis, that'd be great. Thank you. Hi, guys, and welcome. Thanks for joining us. I think we'll just start by if you could just go down and kind of introduce yourselves and why I've not bothered, what's wrong with me tonight? Why I've chosen you guys to be part of this panel, that'd be great.
So hi, I'm Yanis. I'm the co-founder and CMO of Hive. That's been running for about 6 months now, so we're on the E4F program as well. Prior to that, I was the marketing director of a startup company called Rant and Rave, which eventually got sold for 58 million. So I've kind of been through that startup journey, and for some reason, I've decided to do it again. So yeah, God knows why that is, but hey ho, I'm here.
Hi guys, I'm Mike Bandar. I'm one of the founding partners of a company called Term Partners. Term Partners is a startup studio where we focus on acquisition and turnaround of digital businesses, which means we'll either take over a business which we think we can do a better job than the founding team, or we start them from our ideas and our team. We have a few businesses which we've either purchased or started. One of them is one of my favourites. It's the UK's largest dating site for older women and younger men, called Toy Boy Warehouse. So we're the guys for your Toy Boys and your Cougars. And then we also, we bought that one. We started a business called Hopper HQ, which is a planning and scheduling tool for Instagram. We started that ourselves, but that's the one that we've seen a lot of growth on in the last few years. We're in about 75 countries, manage thousands of brands. We're self-funded as a group, and then we use our profit, if you like, to invest into other businesses. And there's a few bits going on, but I'll stop.
Thanks, Mike. Cheers. My name is Cliff Dennett, so I'm head of commercial here at Innovation Birmingham. I spend probably about 15% of my time trying to help startups grow, find investment predominantly, and the rest of the time trying to help grow the campus generally. I'm reasonably well qualified, I think. I monumentally cocked up my own startup business over the period of about 7 years, raised quite a lot of money, did some interesting deals, did some cool stuff with some rock bands you may have heard of, like Queen. So, you know, the recent film release is really bringing it all back in a very sad way for me, although it's a great movie. So I spend a lot of my time trying to help companies grow and avoid some of the mistakes that I made.
Good evening. Hi, I'm Sallie Allen. Enploy was founded back in 2016 on the back of a research project looking into entrepreneurial behaviours. We moved that on to a 10-minute profile diagnostic and have blended that with programs that include access to a learning platform, e-learning courses, and face-to-face workshops. I guess I'm here because We've done some work with E4F, supporting Naomi and Abdul, and because we're here, we're based upstairs, and things have significantly changed for us in the last 18 months.
Cool, thanks guys. So I'm going to kick this off. I've got some questions that I'm going to start off with, but then we will open it to the floor. So I'm just going to quickly go to Cliff real quick. I'm just going to say, from your experience from yourself and also seeing so many companies come through here, what would you say is the biggest mistake almost that you see startups making?
So I think by far the biggest one for me is losing sight, or even not even having sight in the first place, of where the first paying customer is going to come from. It's just a laser light. So I'm talking about, you know, people start businesses for all sorts of reasons. Some do them for lifestyle choices. You know, some just want to express themselves. Some do things for social good, and all that's fantastic. I'm particularly talking in this case to the businesses that want to, you know, go off and raise money and scale and exit. Focus on where that first paying customer is going to come from. My favorite acronym is FPC, first paying customer, rather than MVP, minimum viable product, because it constantly keeps you focused on that. If you do that, I think you've got a higher likelihood of creating the right kind of MVP, faster, simpler, and cheaper than perhaps focusing on the technology, which is what we see an awful lot of businesses focus on, particularly in this area. So FPC, kind of just drill that in, first paying customer, and you may not get there, you may not need to, but if you focus on that, you might develop the right things and get the right people on board from day one.
Well, thank you. That's a really refreshing answer. It's when I've had these before, it's normally something to do, well, it's team and all that kind of stuff, which is very important, but it's very interesting to think about that first paying customer. I think what Bally was saying with her, just using the Excel that she's got, you know, she could have spent months and thousands of pounds, you know, building something without even having a customer to prove it. So yeah, that's really good. To the startups, to the three of you, what's the biggest lesson you've learned so far in your journey as a startup? Yanis?
I think for us, it's having real clarity and focus. That's been a big one. When you're in startup mode, there's lots of shiny things and lots of great opportunities out there, and it's making sure that you're really focused on what your vision is as a company. And I think that's where almost every startup should kind of begin. It's understanding what your vision is, what your mission is, and ultimately, you know, what the strategy is that's going to get you there. And I think I see a lot of startups, including ourselves, were very tactical at the start, and I think having more of a strategic view early on would have probably been better. But again, it's part of the learning journey, and I think that kind of journey of learning and the insight you get along that journey is kind of imperative to the growth. So yeah, kind of fail fast, really.
Yeah, I think actually one of my things is kind of at the heart of what you guys are saying as well, and that's really just this unquestionable, unshakable focus on value. And by value, I mean that from lots of different angles. So value in terms of the value exchange you have with your customers. Why do you exist? What are you leaving with your customers or exchanging with your customers in order to make their life better? And the way you find that is by finding your first paying customers, yes, through MVPs and everything else. But if you're not valuable to your business, if you're not valuable to your customers, then you're actually not a business, because you can't get anything in exchange for that. It's kind of like if you do an MBA, you'll pay 50 grand to get that one lesson. Don't worry about anything else. And then I think once you've found that absolute value, just build the business and the structure and everything around that. I think one of the main issues we see with lots of businesses that are trying to raise is they're trying to run before they can walk. They haven't actually found that value. They've got an idea and they're trying to push that into the market rather than finding this product market fit. And I think the one thing that once you've got, I'll say it again, that value exchange, that value proposition, which is validated not by your first paying customer, but your first 1,000 paying customers, then you can really kind of drive it once you've got that product market fit. And then the second kind of layer to it is actually just never forgetting that everything in business and in the world is all just facilitated by humans. So if you ever think that your business is too good to worry about the individual people in it or the individual people within your customers, then you'll immediately fail. You'll end up with guys in sharp red suits coming to disrupt your industry because you don't care about your customers anymore. And I think that we can kind of take a lesson from that and have an opportunity to hold on to that strong from day one.
Following on from something Yanis said about learning quickly, I think personally one of the biggest things I've learned having made a transition from working for other people is just to get on with it. Learn as quick as you possibly can and don't be too precious about things not being perfect. I think I set myself standards of when I used to work in an organisation and had a boss, and I needed to, just get on with things. Particularly when you've got a co-founder, I think we fell into the trap of thinking we'd cover twice as much ground. Unless you're really disciplined, you find yourselves both attending the same meetings unnecessarily. So the biggest lesson I've learned is absolutely to focus on asking myself the question, is this the best use of my time? And a positive lesson that I've learned, because I wasn't aware of this so much before I started my own business, is just the power of LinkedIn. So, we've built a 20,000 database purely, by that tool, and it had access to some fantastic suppliers, academic advisors, people that, that we didn't know originally. And I'm just going to share a little tech app trick with you in case you don't know it. If you find yourselves in a meeting and you're looking to connect with maybe 5 or 6 people in the room, you can, if you don't already know this, go into your invite, and then it says, there's a button there that says Find Nearby. Do you know this? If you say to the 5 or 6 people, open up LinkedIn, you can just instantly connect with them, so it saves you the hassle of exchanging business cards or spending time finding them on LinkedIn afterwards. So it's a quick tip. Saved me loads of time the other day when I was sitting on a round table of 10. We just all got our phones out and ping, we're all connected. So there you go, enjoy. Yes, you could do that now. Yes, you could. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you need Bluetooth switched on, and then that's it. It just finds people nearby.
Amazing. Top tips from Sallie. Great. Thanks, guys. So one to kind of all of you, it'd be really interesting. We're here to celebrate Birmingham, and obviously we love it, people coming here. Well, you guys are all in Birmingham, pretty much. Or have started business in Birmingham. Why? Why have you chosen Birmingham? Was it purely because you've always been here, or did you purposefully choose it, or what are the opportunities, that kind of stuff? So why Birmingham?
I just don't want to tell anyone because they're all on their LinkedIn app. Why Birmingham? So I think actually that there's practical and kind of logical reasons as well. So I mean, it's better value here. We actually have an office in London as well now, but we wouldn't have had that unless we really leveraged our office in Birmingham. We pay more than double in London than what we pay in Birmingham. It is the fact, and staff are more expensive, and lunches are more expensive, and accommodation is more expensive. But it's not just about that. It's actually about the accessibility you have in Birmingham. So London's bigger, there's more going on, there's more people there, but actually Birmingham has a really nice and interesting community feel that I fundamentally believe that if you want to get access to anybody in the city, just contact them, go onto LinkedIn, tell them to switch their Bluetooth on, and message them, say, look, I'm starting a business, can I get access to you, Mr. Mayor, or you, Mr. Big Business Owner, or you, fellow business, entrepreneur, and people open up, and I think actually that's something that's quite unique to Birmingham. I don't think you find that in many cities. You definitely don't get it in London. So I think the accessibility of people, of skills, of resources, of buildings like this, support, it's rare. It's rare, and I think we need to be open to accepting that, and therefore that continues to keep the community open, and I think that's what's really special about Birmingham.
Yeah, so I totally agree with everything Mike said. It's so if you draw a sort of circle around this campus, a kind of 25-mile radius kind of circle, which is sort of what we see currently as generally our catchment area, although we're starting to draw businesses up from further afield as well. In 2016, there were about 700 new startups in that catchment area, digital technology startups I'm talking about. And that's with the ones who probably aren't don't really want to scale, sort of taken out. So 700 in 2016, about 800 in 2017, and we've already done well over 800 this year. We'll do over 1,000 this year. So that's businesses starting. It doesn't mean say they're going to scale or do anything fantastic, but the growth is really starting to happen. You combine that with the significant infrastructure developments around the city, which causes horrendous roadworks at the moment. You know, I'm a keen driver and I see it as a positive. You know, when you're stuck in traffic, it's because there are lots and lots and lots of diggers everywhere and cranes. And the city is being transformed once again, post-boring, transformed once again into this incredible centre of commerce for the country. And then the growth that's going to happen here, you know, 100,000 square foot of activity here at the moment. It'll be 1 million square foot in the next 5 to 10 years, spreading out across this sort of knowledge quarter area. It's just the place to be, isn't it? Especially if you're in digital tech at the moment. This is where the growth is. As Mike said, it's not saturated. You can walk 20 minutes and meet anybody you want to in Birmingham. You try doing that in London. It takes you 20 minutes to get to the nearest tube station, let alone the rest of it. You know, you're right at the crux of it, right at that elusive tipping point. So that's why you should be here.
I also think, just to add to that, London's tiring. I've spent the last 2 days there, and you know, having a lot of conversations with a lot of different people, it takes it out of you. And I think kind of, you know, Birmingham has an opportunity to kind of build a community with a difference, really. However, what I would say is Birmingham needs to be a little bit more ambitious, in my opinion. So I was lucky enough to kind of host part of London Tech Week. And what Londoners do really well is they bring together communities. We don't do that here. We operate in silos. And I think a bit of a call to arms to kind of all the different communities out there is let's collaborate more. And let's show London what we can do. But that really needs to be something that you know is founded on collaboration and groups coming together to do that. You know, if you think about kind of London Tech Week, that is the kind of jewel in the crown of Europe, right? When it comes to the tech scene. Why can't we do that? We've done it with the Commonwealth Games. Why can't we do that with the tech scene? So, yes, I agree. Birmingham is a great place to found a digital business, but we can do so much more. So, yeah, let's do it.
Sallie, do you have anything to add? Oh, there we go.
Can I add something
Yeah, of course you can.
Panels are kind of boring when everyone agrees with everyone. So I'm going to say I disagree with you there. I agreed with 90% of it until one of the last bits, and actually you hear this a lot in Birmingham. Let's show London how good we can be. And I think that is the single most damaging inbuilt thought that we all have here. Not to you personally, to all of us. Because actually, like, we started a business based here in Birmingham. We have four bases around the world now. We operate in 75 countries. Our customers in India do not give a shit if we're based in London or Birmingham or Liverpool or Wales or Leeds or anything like that. We should not be competing with cities that are an hour and 20 minutes away. We should be competing, if we want to compete with anyone, with the cluster of tech scenes in Germany or with Silicon Valley, or actually just focusing on the value that we're creating. There's so many businesses here in Birmingham that are struggling to get funding. Get on the fucking train. It's an hour and 20 minutes. And you say to the funders there, if they don't want to get on the train, so that's fine, give us your money, the bank wires go that way, and our costs are half up here. It's absolutely fine. So I think I agree with everything you're saying, but don't let yourself think about how we're competing with London. Let's use London for what it's good for. If we need to get talent there, put them in a WeWork office and have talent there. Eventually they'll come here when they realise that they can't actually go for the drinks on Friday night because they've got no money. But let's look at the communities in Birmingham and the UK and whoever else we need to create this value and create amazing businesses. I think your point earlier about our ambition being lacking, I think it's actually linked to this point. Let's not compete with London. Let's just build our own value, our own business, and do something truly incredible from here.
I agree.
Thank you. I think that's great. It kind of leads on to my next question quite nicely. Both Cliff and Mike, you've talked about growth and raising money. What is the biggest challenge for growth for businesses? Is it the lack of funding in Birmingham? Is it the lack of not wanting to go to London? Why is it so difficult to grow in this? You said that we've had, 1,000 startups this year. You know, we're probably right in saying that a lot of those will not get to the kind of scale up stage, and I just would like to know your thoughts on why.
Yeah, it's not particularly a Birmingham problem. So in the UK, we are the 3rd best in Europe on a per capita basis at starting companies. So 3rd best. So we start lots of businesses. It's easy, isn't it? We can all do it right now, 15 quid or 25 quid, whatever it is now on Companies House, can't remember, 10 minutes and it's done. Boom, started a business. Scaling's a problem. So 3rd place in terms of the number of businesses we start per capita in the country in Europe. 14th place in terms of the number of those businesses that then go on to employ somebody beyond the founder. We are woefully in this country bad at that. And there's all sorts of reasons behind it. My personal feel is, and I think something Mike just said, he probably agrees, is it's got bugger all to do with access to money. There is money everywhere. Money is really easy to get. It's the team and the traction that's the hardest thing. You can find investment, even locally actually, but you can attract it from anywhere. For me, it's the team. It's building that team, and it starts right from day one, from your co-founder, being humble enough. If you're a business guy who thinks they can build tech, or you're a tech guy who thinks you can run business, wake up and go and find somebody who can do that other bit. It's all you need to do. Pair up with somebody and be humble enough, confident enough in your own ability, and humble enough to recognize that you cannot do both of those things. And the real magical businesses here have got that, just have recognized that. And they may not have that co-founder yet, but they recognize they need it. And that's a massive leap. So it's building the right team. With the right team, you can do incredible things with absolutely no money.
So just go back to the question. I mean, this is about challenges for growth, wasn't it? And one of the things, so I think speaking from a small business point of view, one of the biggest challenges we've found to growth is really around having a fantastic pipeline, but actually from a B2B point of view, finding that match in terms of learning to understand the decision-making process and the time it takes for other people to make decisions. And you have your aspirations around growth and how fast you want to grow. But of course, the biggest challenge is how quickly you can get those POs back in, even when your pipeline's looking really healthy. For a variety of reasons, there can be, whether it's Brexit or whether it's budgets, that those kind of delays, I think, have quite an impact on your growth aspirations. Sure. Yes.
First paying customer, FPC, how long was that journey or timeline?
So for us, we initially founded in January 2016. Then the first kind of 6 to 9 months were part of a research project. So it probably took us 15 months. I mean, clearly it's dependent on your business. There's quite a lot of tech development involved in what we were doing. But I couldn't agree with Cliff more that first paying customer just changed the dynamic of having that case study to be able to win over business, but also the conversations we were having with potential investors. We'd done various pitches and that hadn't gone anywhere, but as soon as we started to get just 1 or 2 customers, the conversation changed, possibly because our confidence did, I think, a little bit. It's a big boost, isn't it?
Sorry, did the 15 months include the secondment time, did you say?
The what time, sorry?
So you said that you were seconded to a project initially, so...
No, it started off as an academic project.
Right, okay, so did that include...
And that included it for us,
right,
yeah.
Okay, so 15 months.
Yeah, it was... I don't know about you guys, how long did it take?
Yeah.
So we're a startup studio, right? So we spin businesses, play with projects, and we actually don't consider it a business unless it's got a customer. Linking back to the question now, I think growth. I think going back to one of my previous points, is one of the biggest challenges is people almost trying to grow too fast. So I have an idea, this is my idea, and we have like the entrepreneurial dilemma where of course we're right, because we're great, so we just got to keep on pushing this idea, but unless it's fully validated with a couple of customers, then it's not going to work. So we had a hack day a week and a half ago. We were working on a concept to help, it's not important what concept it was basically a SaaS-based business, blah, blah, blah. We spent 2 days hacking it together as a small team of 6, and we couldn't get any people to commit to it. So we were like, nope, not going to be one. We can pivot, we can go in it in a few different areas, but actually it wasn't. We were too far away from finding this product market fit. And I think that if you pull that 2-day process, sometimes that takes people 15 months or 6 months or whatever else. It's about this whole concept of failing fast, as we were saying earlier, getting your first paying customers as early as possible, but then actually being humble enough to say, okay, this isn't the right product market fit. Let's continue to iterate on what we're providing, what value we're creating, who we're creating it for, how we create that, and then as soon as we've validated that and we've built up a good enough case to scale, then we can get whatever funding and whatever else is needed. But anybody looking for funding, I would say don't use that as an excuse to have not started or to have not done things. We've never had funding, and actually we now work on the momentum of our existing businesses. That has meant that we've done businesses in very different ways, which means we've grown slower, but we finally got to the position which is interesting to be in. So.
And I'd just add on that. I remember when we got our first paying customer, which was this was the startup I worked at before. It was a £2 million contract, and sometimes your first paying customer isn't the right customer, and that was a kind of hard lesson to learn. So we spent a lot of money, a lot of time, a lot of resources trying to make that customer happy, and frankly, it wasn't a good product market fit. So for a lot of pain, we kind of separated, parted ways, and it was at that point that we realized actually it was the wrong type of customer. And by changing the model, we managed to then get another 20 customers paying us kind of £250,000. So all of a sudden, kind of the game changes. Now, it's all about having a model you can kind of replicate, and that's really key here. It's being able to repeat it time and time and time again. So yes, a first paying customer is great, but don't let that seduce you to the point where that's all you focus on. Look at other opportunities and other ways to innovate as well.
Cool. Thanks, guys. Really good insights. Got a bit conscious of time, so I'm just going to do just a couple more questions from me, and then we'll open it to the floor. So, actually, this can go to all of you, because Cliff, you started a business before. If you were going to start a new company tomorrow, Mike, you probably are going to start a new company tomorrow. If you were going to start a new company or start your company again tomorrow, what would be the first thing that you would do? Sallie?
I would become obsessed with time, and I would find a tool that would enable me to have absolute focus and assess, as I was mentioning earlier, is this the best use of my time? I would constantly be checking with myself, is everything I'm doing contributing towards focus and getting our first paying customer?
Yeah, I really like that. It's much better than what I'm going to say. Yeah. Yeah, it's really, I did something I used to call the illusion of work. Getting your expenses done, doing the filing the invoices. It all needs doing, but if you spend half your time doing that and not doing other things, then maybe that's the wrong use of time. I would find lots of people to try and rip my idea, my thing apart. Absolutely rip it apart, and I'd listen. So I think Mike mentioned earlier about confidence, and it's a really fine balance as an entrepreneur or anybody running a business to be confident and humble at the same time. Confident enough to know that you're confident you can deliver, and humble enough to know that other people are going to shape what it is you're going to deliver. And that second bit is the really hard bit to do, because we all want to stand up, and we've all done it. We all stand up in front of the investors or whoever it is and say, this is great, I fully believe in this, and it's going to be this amount. And you don't want to admit, thanks Mike, cheers. You don't want to admit that, that you don't know. But one of the most refreshing things to see in pitch presentations in front of investors is when they're asked a question and an investor says, this is really powerful. Do you know what? I don't know that, but I'm really glad you raised it. I'm going to go and find out. Or, I don't know, do you have an opinion on that? You don't hear it very often, and it's the most powerful thing in kind of pitch kind of presentations. So anyway, I do more listening. That's what
Thanks.
Really good. So we do this. So I've got more to say on this. So firstly, I'd ask myself, as an entrepreneur, like, why do you want to start your own business? And for all of us, that's different. It might be financial freedom, it might be to be the boss, it might be to affect change, have a social impact, whatever else. And I think the reason why it's really important to know that from day one is to make sure you then create a business or an enterprise or a job or something that provides that why. So many people start a business because they just want £1,000 a month and an easy life. They get packets of funding, they go to markets, they pivot, they change their product, they work for years and years and years and never actually turn a profit. Whereas actually all they should have done is just started a simple consultancy or bought and sold stuff on eBay. So actually ask why and use that as a criteria for success within your business. Secondly, I would then not start with an idea, actually. So we follow something internally called effectual thinking, which is a concept of idea generation, that actually you don't start with the idea, but you start with a set of means. So you ask yourself, what are you, who do you know, what do you know, what resources do you have? And you allow goals to emerge over time and directions to emerge over time. You see these, not opportunities, but things coming together. It's difficult to do and it sounds super woolly, but it's massively effective. And another core one is we always think about affordable loss. So we've all done it. We all run businesses. We think, right, if I sell this one widget, I will make £1 profit. So you put that into Excel and you think, okay, if I drag, you click on that little box in the bottom right-hand corner, you drag it all the way up to 1 million sales, you've made £1 million. And you think that's where it's going to be, and you just belligerently go at that. But that's not the reality. And actually, we can end up running our businesses in 6 years' time and never get into that millionth sell. And we almost trap ourselves into not being able to leave that business. So if we think about the affordable loss in terms of how much money do you have to invest, how much time, how much social life, energy, everything, and use that as a criteria, again, almost a constraint of innovation, then you'll start businesses that actually work for you for the reason why you run a business, and actually you'll use your skill sets and everything that you have to run the most effective business for you. And then the rest of it is just going on this pursuit of value creation and listening. If I was to try and sell you a bottle of water for £100, you'd say, and I'd say to you, buy this bottle of water for £100, you'd say, buy this bottle of water for £100, buy this bottle. And we see entrepreneurs all the time doing this 1,000 times. And that's because they've bought 1,000 bottles of water at 100 or £90 each, so they have to sell it. Whereas if I say to you why, and you say, well, actually, it's too small, or it's too expensive, or I want electrolytes in it, or I prefer it if it was blue, or something like that, man, we'll put electrolytes in it. We'll make it blue, we'll make it bigger, we'll make it smaller. We'll find what value you want in exchange for whatever we might be able to provide. That's entrepreneurship. And I think if you can do that pursuit of value whilst creating a business which you are actually able to create, giving it things you're able to give, and use all of the skill sets, assets, resources, connections that you have, then we really create amazing businesses. And you won't fail. You can't fail.
Keep it kind of relatively simple. Start with something. No, I wasn't. I think kind of start with something we've all got, which is knowledge. And it's very similar to what you said, Mike. Start with knowledge. Because out of knowledge comes problems. And if we can kind of start with a problem, obsess about that problem, solve that problem, but more importantly then obsess about the customer and really kind of, get under the skin of what the customer wants, what drives them. And then the last thing is probably not in any kind of startup textbook, but build the brand. And I know this is counterintuitive to kind of most kind of, startup journeys, but the brand is so important. But what I mean about the brand is it isn't branding, it isn't a logo. What it is, it's understanding the emotional and rational drivers behind the customer. What makes them tick? If you look at kind of Nike compared to everyone else in their space, sports apparel, they're really playing on the emotional drivers of a customer. They're, to all of us, are saying there's a hero and villain inside us. There's a hero inside us who wants to be that champion, but there's also a villain inside us who actually knows that it could be doing more. And Nike plays on that every single day in their marketing and their branding. And by obsessing about that and being consistent, they become the market leader. So I think branding and the brand is so important to that journey.
Cool, thank you. And then really quickly, just right down the line, in our big changes that are happening here at Innovation Birmingham in the next few years with the Bruntwood merger and the expansion that Cliff was talking about and all the rest of it, just for kind of my curiosity, what one thing would you change about the Birmingham tech scene as it is today? Just real quick.
More collaboration.
Perfect.
Yeah, I'd say the silo thing, and actually it's the kind of ambition thing we were talking about earlier.
Great.
Oh, I was going to say that. First paying customer.
I'll ask a question then. How many people are further than a 20-minute drive from work from here and are in a business that has been going for longer than 5 years, tech business? So that's only a handful of people in the room. And I think there's a great opportunity to tap into what goes on some of the business parks, some of the industrial parks in and around Birmingham. Go back to that, collaboration point that Yanis made, and do even more to bring in those sorts of businesses to work with startups in here.
Brilliant. Thanks, guys. That's all from me, but I would like to offer the opportunities for any of you guys to ask our experts here anything you'd like to ask.
Hi everyone. Thanks for that. It's really useful and insightful. So I'm one of 4 girls. My dad had 4 girls. He desperately wanted boys, and he ended up having one right at the end. If I look at all 4 of us, there's only one of us that started our business. My dad had his own business when he came to this country from India, and he's had a metal polishing business all of his life, manufacturing. So we all grew up on lean principles. We must have been like this big, and you learnt all of that stuff from the age of 5 onwards. So my question to you is, how do we get more girls into entrepreneurship? Getting them into IT is one thing, but I suppose second bit to that question is, how do we get them into entrepreneurship as well?
I think the gentleman should start, and then as a lady, I'll answer.
So I think it's an amazing point actually, and one that has had more publicity recently, but there is a danger of it just becoming a bit of a talking shop rather than actually affecting this change. So one of the businesses we run is called Enterprise Academy, and we do training and development for entrepreneurs. So we mainly work outside the UK. We run projects with the British Council in Nigeria and Sudan and all sorts like that. And actually one thing we do is we have a huge amount of, well, actually a fair gender split. We always have 50-50 on our on all of our programs, and I think one part of it is when firstly giving people that understanding and ability that it's not a gender-specific industry, that actually there are insanely successful female entrepreneurs that are successful not specifically because they're female, but also they're not successful because they're male, that actually they are massively successful in their own right, that they've done their own incredible things. I think there's also a massive part to do with the kind of male entrepreneurship world as well, in terms of understanding that there are a huge amount of interesting businesses that are better run, or roles that are better run by some women, in the same way that there's different skill sets which better work in different environments. And I think that is something that we don't see in a lot of boards, we don't see in a lot of roundtable discussions, in a lot of other stuff. So I think it's an understanding and awareness that the barriers kind of need to decrease, and there's an acceptance on both sides that there is the world is 50% female, and there's insights on both sides that actually work together. So I suppose the real thing is I don't have a crystallized answer to it, but I think the awareness opens a door for more people to do more amazing things, which then proves to other people that other people can do amazing things. It's the same as in any underrepresented group in any industry. It's just getting more positive role models in to kind of continue to stoke that.
Yeah, so I think that, so it's by no means perfect here on the campus. When I look at the audience actually, and when I think about the sort of percentage of female run and led businesses or people who are in, founding partnerships in businesses who are female, we probably do a bit better than average here, but still nowhere near good enough in that respect. I suspect the reason we do a bit better than average, and I've got no stats to back this up, it's just my feeling, is that we've got some really good women in high-profile, front-facing parts of the business and very important parts of the business like this and E4F, etc. And I suspect the answer is somewhere in, part of the answer is in, as has happened in every other industry or all the forward-looking industries, is the recognition that there are different people in the world who need communication with differently, who have different needs, they need to hear different things said in different ways. And I would imagine a lot of the style of pitching and presenting and communicating and authors talking about business plans and canvas models and God knows what else, who predominantly are male, probably don't talk in the right way or say the right things. I would imagine it's to do with that. And the more females we have in prominent positions actually acting as evangelists, I suppose, proselytizers, the better. But that certainly won't be anywhere near half the problem solved, I shouldn't think, but hopefully it might help.
If you're the son or daughter of an entrepreneur, you're statistically more likely to become an entrepreneur yourself. And personally, I think that opportunities to access enterprise and to go and spend time with entrepreneurs and within startup organizations, if that happens early on for girls, at school, be that at primary school, there is some great progress happening, particularly around the Gatsby benchmarks that are encouraging more of those sorts of opportunities. Then we should see that come through, that girls become women who then think, yeah, this is for me and I can do this. But I think it's like any careers opportunities, the more exposure you have to it, the better informed you are in order to be able to feel that, yes, you can give this a go.
Yeah, I'd echo that. I think we're trying to solve a problem too late. We're trying to solve a problem when, people are already in industry, and I think education's letting kind of girls down. It's not making it accessible enough. We're not putting enough people in there that can inspire those young girls to go, I want to be someone that's a leader in tech. So I think it starts at that level. I also think that, if you look at kind of Silicon Valley and the kind of the bro culture they've got over there, that doesn't help matters. So I think we need to kind of solve it from both sides, education and also right at the top as well.
Yeah, 100%. My brother actually works at a girls' high school, and he asked me to come and speak to them because it's a very, very academic school, and they have a special group for their high achievers that they meet. And he said they've all got this thing. They want to be doctors or accountants or things like this, and he was like, I need someone to come and tell them that there's so much more to do that. So I think as women, seek those opportunities and take them and do what we can to educate the younger generation. 100%. Cool, we've still got a couple of minutes if you've got a question. Yep.
Okay, this is a question. E4F, the program, has seen a lot of people come through with innovation and fantastic ideas. So moving forward, what does that look like next year? Where will the support come for new startups and innovation?
So that's something that's in a state of flux, as many some of you in the audience will know. So E4F has been, to date, I think throughout its life, 50% funded by European development funding, so ERDF, for those of you who know, European Regional Development Funding. Every 3 years, we've managed to renew that, so the business here has paid 50% funding out of its bottom line towards it, and then match that with 50% EU funding. A couple of things have happened this year. Obviously, we've got the big B word coming up in March next year, which, thank goodness, well, sorry, somebody might have a question about that. We'll all make up some answers like everyone else is, if anyone does ask about that. So we've got that coming up, which has thrown the EU funding side of things into disarray. And actually, this was the final, the kind of last of the 3 years, if you like. So we would have had to reapply for some funding, which currently doesn't exist. So, isn't it a little bit up in the air at the moment? We are absolutely incredibly proud of particularly what people like, particularly Naomi, has done with the program. Desperately want it to continue. So we've got another startup program here called Serendip, which is for slightly later stage business and much more corporate partner focus. So more, not 100%, but more kind of B2B type businesses than B2C. But we absolutely want to fill that that gap and keep E4F going. So the brand will continue. We may have to scale back, or we're certainly having to scale back things for certainly the first quarter of next year until we work out how we're going to rekindle that missing funding. But we're actively now out looking for private sector funding to fund that early stage activity. We're very successful at funding the later stage activity with private sector funding, so that's self-sustaining. We now want to do that with E4F. So absolutely want to continue and in the great work that Naomi's done.
Yeah, hello. I have a question. You all talked about how important it is to find our first paying customers at a startup. So for Yanis, Mike, and Sallie, could you tell us about your first paying customer? How did you find it? A bit about that. And for Cliff, if you could tell us generally.
Our first paying customer came through some hunting on LinkedIn, which is probably why I mentioned it earlier. And it then led to a meeting, proposal stage, etc. One of our other early customers that is purely about being based in this building was talking to somebody about what we did. They made an introduction, and they were happy to offer as a pilot. And they've become a repeat customer, and we've done 5 times more work with them this year than we did last year. And that was purely just by being here, networking, and meeting somebody.
Yeah, I think kind of don't be afraid to ask and use your network. I think kind of referrals, word of mouth is such a great kind of opportunity for startups. And I think a lot of people are afraid to ask their network because they think kind of, why should we ask? We need to do it off our own back. But yeah, kind of just talk to people and say, I need help. We did that, and we were very lucky to get kind of some very good people to say, yeah, you've got a good solution. We'll put you in front of the right people. And I think then from there on in, really, it's about experimenting, kind of finding out what works when acquiring a new customer. So just keep trying lots of different things, and kind of the stuff that doesn't work, stop doing it. The stuff that does work, that's an opportunity to invest more.
So we integrate that fully within our ideation and concept validation process. So the way it actually worked with Hopper, so Hopper HQ, the pitch, is a planning and scheduling tool for Instagram and other social media. It's really cool, check it out. We basically started by saying, okay, let's look into the Instagram world. We knew some influencers within Instagram, so we kind of started to look at this expanding market. What value can we create? We initially had the concept that we wanted to enable people to charge followers on their account. So we spoke to a couple of people and said, would you pay for this? Would you install this? They started to say no, but actually one thing we do find it difficult is actually activating Instagram. We have to post from our phone, we have to post in real time. We realized there was no scheduling tool for Instagram at the time. So we kind of said, okay, if we built that, would you be interested? And they were like, yeah, definitely. So my business partner just mocked up an image or a set of images of a scheduling tool, put it into PowerPoint, and then I booked a meeting into an agency, a few agencies, and I went in and said, this is Hopper, and I clicked them through through the PowerPoint. We cut it up. It looked like it worked. And I said, so you put your pictures in here, and you click this button, it goes in here, and you click this button, it goes to your Instagram. Do you want to buy it? And they were like, well, how much? And I was saying, like £50 a month? And they were like, oh, no, it's not right for us. And I say, why not? Well, you know, it's more expensive than the others, or actually we really want this tool, or we want to work in bulk. Then called up James being like, put in a button that says bulk, like reduce the price on the end. Went to the next agency. Then the first one, it was about the fourth one that said, yeah, cool, sign me up. I was like, I'll be back in about a month. And we kind of like ran and built this dirty MVP and then continued to iterate from there. So, and then obviously put all of that into online communications, moved self-serve, and we've never stopped. We've kind of like just continued to MVP on MVP. So actually it was fully integrated into the ideation process.
Thank you.
And it's cheaper to run a business like that as well.
Okay, cool guys. It's you can probably smell the pizza, so we're going to do a wrap. But can we just have a massive round of applause for our panel here? Thank you very much. So yes, as Cliff mentioned, the EFREF as we know it will be finishing this year, but Innovation Birmingham is very much still going to be supporting businesses. So keep your ear to the ground. There'll be news on that over the next few weeks, and we hope that you continue to be part of this community, and we look forward to seeing you next year. Enjoy your pizza, guys. Thanks.